Our guest today is Sean Salinas, who's the quarterback coach and head track coach at San Antonio Roosevelt High School. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
How you doing, Donna Lawrence? What's going on?
Man, when we get together, it's always good, baby. I feel good, man. I'm excited about this. I'm glad to have you on. You definitely had to be one of the top 5 guests.
Appreciate it. Should have been top 1, but I'll give it to Trahan. It's all right.
You got it. So born and raised in San Antonio, played quarterback at San Antonio Holmes. What are some of your memories from your playing days? And tell me a little bit about San Antonio football.
San Antonio football, and I guess growing up here in one of the bigger districts here around San Antonio, and we got quite a few. Obviously, we're a large city, but we kind of have that homey feel to us down here. Played at San Antonio Holmes. It was a real big-time program back then for me coming up. And, kind of my way into it kind of started, as I wasn't always the best athlete. I wasn't the fastest guy, the biggest guy once you get into high school, and kind of just found my way in, found a spot, and, did what I could for the program and, for all the people that were there at Holmes High School. So my time there was spent just battling. Had a lot of great athletes around me to contribute to pretty much my success. Guys like Robert Quiroga, Darrell Williams, a whole slew of linemen. We had some guys, and just, I guess, over the course of years and years up until now, kind of all that ball and all the people have kind of traveled outside the loop, kind of similar maybe to Houston area, Dallas area in some aspects. Y'all got kind of the surrounding. I know y'all been at Pearland and stuff like that, and some of those surrounding cities and, everything that they put into it up there. It's kind of the same thing down here. It's just not as, how would you say? We got a small part of our loop. We don't have the whole thing covered yet. So I think, here in years and years, as we go down the line, maybe in a sense we'll, I guess, catch up to some of the Houston, some of the Dallas. Plenty of good players down here, and I would advocate, seeing the coaching and the players. It's very similar to everything that, when we go to clinics and things like that throughout the state. I think we're very comparable. A lot of great coaches down here, a lot of good players. I was able to be a part of some of that, kind of raising up, through the ranks, I guess you would say. And, now I found a place to kind of lay my hat.
One thing that was interesting in the last podcast, Dustin Dyer, who's the tight end coach at Dickinson, was talking about his 2013 run to the state championship. And he talked about seeing Houston Lamar on film and not thinking he could get a first down. And then they played San Antonio Madison in the state semis and almost got beat. They were down 14 a few times. So I definitely agree with you. Like Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, all of them are right there. And then you definitely have your outliers, your one-horse towns that can put together a team and make a run in 6A. You, as a quarterback, had a pretty remarkable run when you were in high school. How was that season, and where did it end?
It ended as we're one of the last 4 teams playing state semifinalists. Lost into a match in Katy. Not the greatest memory of kind of losing, but I got to go back and kind of redo it, the next year and a year after, trying to battle back. But for, some of those guys that I played with, when you're a young guy stepping in and you have an opportunity to continue the process, some of those other guys are leaving. I thought we had a really good program back then. And I thought for the district that we were in, we were a very solid district. I believe the year that I went to the state semis, The following year, Marshall High School went to the state semis, lost, I believe, to Katy as well. I could be wrong on that. And then the following year after that, my senior year, Taft High School. So all three of those schools are right here in Northside, so back then the talent pool and, kind of the teams that were making it into that final run were pretty legit, squads back then, but obviously it's varied, over time. So to say that the talent has spread out kind of down here, as growth and development have kind of moved around the city, it's kind of what it's been, but very, very good teams down here, solid people, solid players, like I said, solid coaches.
So when you were in the Final Four and you said you had 2 years left, you were a sophomore as a starting quarterback?
I was a sophomore, kind of got plugged into a system early on with some new coaches. Just kind of by chance, I kind of found my way into that lineup. Was going to be a JV kid. Had a senior baseball player kind of quit football, so it kind of opened up a backup spot, should you say, on our varsity team. And, coach went in, asked my parents, hey, you think this kid can do this? Be a backup. We don't plan on playing him. And next thing you know, about a game and a half later, I'm plugged in the lineup and never got pulled out pretty much after that, and kind of went on a run, did some good things. The school that I actually coach at right now, Roosevelt High School, is kind of part of my history because on that very first run, they were the first team I ever started against. They had guys, Brock Stratton, Carlisle Holiday, who went to Notre Dame, and they were basically the team to beat. And they pretty much gave us a whooping my first go at them preseason. I think it was something like 31-6. I got taken out in the fourth quarter. The starter came back in, threw a touchdown. So I thought my season was pretty much sealed at that point. But, they allowed me to let me go. And at the end of the year, we matched up with them round one. And it was kind of one of those things of if you win the first one, you can go on a pretty good run because, the way it lines up and where you move, whether it's down south, up north, who you're going to play, they were the biggest dog kind of, in it. So we got a rematch with them, and it's probably one of my best moments of my high school career is, being a sophomore, getting a little bit of revenge, and throwing for a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns, and a game that meant a lot, to everybody in the building. And we got to go on, so we kind of rewrote the newspaper and the storyline, for Holmes High School that year. And now all these years later, I'm at the high school that we beat basically a long time ago. So kind of full circle type deal. Pretty cool,
Well, I've known you for 20 years and we've known Trahan for 20 years, and our relationship isn't really built on compliments. It's more like trying to get under each other's skin. But I'll tell you what, when I went to TOU and I was arrogant, I didn't know anything, right? And I saw you doing a vertical jump. I thought you were the punter. And then as I've gotten to know you, man, your composure, the way you see the game, the touch you have on the ball was all very, very impressive. And I wish I appreciated it more when I was in college as I do now, right? Just coaching quarterbacks now, I think for what you have as far as size and just God-given ability, you totally maximized. And that's why you're a really good coach. How'd you get into coaching?
It was kind of one of those things where I felt like I had always been coaching, almost since high school. And part of those runs back when I was in high school kind of led me on that path. They eventually led me to Texas Lutheran. Texas Lutheran led me to, a whole bunch of goods, a whole bunch of bads in football. And I think I had always been a coaching type person on the field. I don't think there's another way that it really works. If you have a good team, you're going to have other players and not just coaches coaching. So that's something that I thought about, as I kind of went through. And once my kind of time was done, and, I knew that was going to be the last game there at Texas Lutheran and stuff, I kind of put my focus into that. One of the coaches that uh, actually told me was Dennis Parker, I believe, went in after Coach Mueller. And I never played for him, never coached for him or anything like that. But he basically said that, you're going to find out uh, basically where your heart's at and, what you want to do in your career with coaching. You'll find out year one if it's for you or not. And kind of when I went through that, that's kind of what happened, Year one, I know you were out there too, met up with some of my old coaches. They coached me in high school, and they were like, hey, come over here, come coach our quarterbacks down at United High School. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And after that year one, it was like, I'm set. I don't think there's any profession, that matches coaching, as far as what you get to do with kids, community, everything involved. And it's a learning process. And it's still a learning process. And it just kind of keeps you on your toes.
I don't think we could talk for 45 minutes without mentioning Coach Sanchez and what he's meant to you. What has Coach Sanchez meant to you as far as your coach in high school and then bringing you along for the ride starting at Laredo United?
Oh, man. It's been a lot. It's probably meant way more to me than, he's probably mentored so many people, and, people have their own thoughts about him and what he does and everything that, he's done down there in South Texas and in San Antonio when he was coaching us at Holmes High School. He was kind of like the second guy to take charge of me. I had my dad at home, and then there was basically like my dad at school, and that's what he did for me. Put me in the right situations. He talked to me. He got my opinions on certain things, and what I was thinking, either when I was out there on or off the field. Kept me out of trouble. All types of stuff, just stuff that maybe would expect, but not everybody does as a coach. And he kind of just led me on that path. And, once I went down with him at Laredo United, kind of just took on a whole different side of going from player to coach. Okay, this is how things are done. This is how we do it here. This is what I've learned. And, him at that age, by the time I was, out of college and into my first year, he's already an older guy. And, we go to clinics and he's sitting in row one. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing that, you can be learning something every day. And I'm learning from that guy who's sitting in the front row, still trying to learn when, maybe other people are coming to learn from him. So it's just that process of, sharpening your tools, sharpening your craft. I got all that from him. So that's kind of where I take it with myself today.
Man, I'll tell you what, there's been so many clinics, and I wouldn't have known who he was unless I knew who you were, where, I think some people's gift is running fast. Some people's gift is jumping high. For some reason, my gift is not sleeping, waking up early. And so we'll go to clinics, and, that guy's there at 8 a.m. Doesn't matter if it's Maryland Eye. He's got a notebook, and he's getting after it. So I think that's pretty cool. And I've had a chance to talk to him maybe one or two times through you, and he's been very humble, very kind,
Oh, yeah.
all football, very little ego. So I think that's pretty cool.
No doubt. No doubt. He's got way less ego than you or I.
Hey, man, I resemble that remark. Hey, so I'll tell you what, the highlight of the THSCA conference this past year in San Antonio was the Hispanic Texas High School Football Coaches Association Social. You're a member. I've seen you post things about the organization. What do you think about the organization? What value do you see in it? And what's its purpose?
I I think in general, just from seeing it, and I'm not the creator, I'm not the anything of it, but I do support it. Same way I do our coaches association. I think it's something to get behind. I think what they're doing about uh, getting coaches' names out there, getting a face behind the name, and kind of giving the rest of Texas and the rest of everywhere else, uh, kind of that spotlight on Hispanic coaching. Uh, I spent 4 years down, and I know you spent some time down there too, and a lot of good people, a lot of good minds down there. Uh, that you can learn from, that maybe don't get the time of day or to be on a podcast or anything. So just to put a spotlight on some people throughout their coaching and their time, I think is a big thing, for us to move forward. One as just a coach, and being part of a Hispanic culture. We have a lot of it here in Texas, and I think there's a lot of good people, that are in this profession, for the right reasons. I think they do a good job of highlighting, all those things. So I got a chance to be a part of it. I kind of helped out, where I could. I'm not the guy who makes a run or anything like that, but I did get to meet some good people this past year, kind of see what they do, and then obviously it brought in so many more people, throughout the year and what they did, highlighting coaches, that assistant coaches here, head coaches here, throughout the season, was kind of a cool thing, because it doesn't always happen. You're talking about one award for, maybe all of Texas or coaching in football, and, they're kind of highlighting a few more, whether it's here in San Antonio, down south, wherever it may be, they're just highlighting all those good moments, and there's so many that people miss, and I think they do a good job of that.
I think networking and being an advocate, right? So you're one of my best friends, so definitely being an advocate for you, but also talking about like our baseball coach at Langham Creek, Armando Cedeno, the AD at Goose Creek Memorial, Lee Martinez, the D-line coach at Pearland Dawson. I think just having that network where you can work together, and somebody in an interview room may know somebody else,
Yeah,
and give the recommendation, because I think that's key, right? Like coming out of somebody's mouth, like, I vouch for this person.
definitely.
And I think overall having that network
Oh yeah,
is huge.
big time, big time, big time. You gotta know somebody from somewhere. There's somebody always out there that's either going to give you your chance, or eventually, who knows, like you, myself, somebody else down the road, we may give somebody a chance, and you never know who that person's going to be, or, that little word that you put out there, about somebody, for something that, kind of sets somebody on their path, or, keeps them going, or whatever it may be. So you gotta know people, and you gotta network. That would be one of the things, if I could tell it to, younger guys out there and stuff. Me, kind of being a little stubborn back then, is, getting out of your comfort zone, and going out, showing face, to the people, who have done it before us, and, getting to know some people. I mean, everybody knows somebody, so.
No doubt. All right. You had a good career at TLU. A couple years ago, Coach Strahan and I were working together, and he got the call that he was going into the TLU Athletic Hall of Fame. And my first response was, somebody had to throw you the damn ball, man. Right? So Jason gets in. It's been a few years now since then. You're the one throwing him the ball. Make your case right now why you should be in the TLU Athletic Hall of Fame.
Oh man, if I had to make a case for myself,
And don't say because you had to deal with these idiots.
oh man, if I was trying to be mean about it, I would say yes. I'm the man throwing the ball, and I made his career. I helped make Matt Ross's career, maybe, kind of put them out there, put TLU kind of back on the map type deal a little bit. We weren't very good back then, but we kind of got it going and we got it kick-started. They were running me around to some booster club meetings or I don't know what, and we finally got some field goal posts, out there instead of just some grass. So we were kind of the start of that, and we had a real good team back then, and part of history still because between Trahan and myself, I don't know how many records it is that I own there, but I mean, there's quite a few, and hopefully they'll be broken someday. But meanwhile, they're sitting there. I'm one of the number ones. So that would be
Well,
the case.
I'll speak up for you, man. So TOU had a great run in the 70s, right? Early 80s, and then it dissolves. It goes away. It gets brought back in the late 90s. And it was pretty stagnant for a while, as you could imagine, starting a program from scratch and getting in the NCAA or whatever. And I think Jim Good, who's now the offense coordinator at Redlands, who was a head coach, and
Yes.
he's an interesting follow on Twitter, and yourself and Jason and a bunch of those guys, man. You guys did a great job kind of putting TOU back on the map, make it interesting, putting pressure on Hardin Simmons and Mary Hardin Baylor. So I think they'll wise up and realize that, the more the merrier.
Yeah.
I think you're in.
I'm glad that you said Jim Good because he's definitely one of those guys. Kind of put me on a path. Made me right, made me accountable for a whole bunch of things that I did. He pulled me back when he had to, and then let me loose when he needed. And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have done some of the things that I did down there. And I know I wasn't his number one guy, down there at the beginning, but through work and then working with him and learning from him, we ended up, I thought, being a pretty good coach, quarterback, type thing to happen down there. It ended up being good for a bunch of us, which is a good thing.
Jim Good is very honest. He doesn't hide. He doesn't hide his opinion. And I think that's one thing I've grown to really appreciate about him is dude, you're slacking. You ain't there, dude. And then as I've seen him as I've gotten older, I saw him a few years ago in Nashville at AFCA, and then I see him on Twitter and stuff like that. And I've seen him a couple times recruiting. Man, it's like all love. And I thought that guy hated me, but he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's just real. Dude, you're screwing up. You're not giving it what you could give it. Even if what you could give it isn't very good, you're still not giving it.
Yeah.
Right. So when you get into the coaching profession as you get older, you learn to appreciate that kind of thing. And I think that definitely had an influence on your education, right? You go to college to get an education, and sometimes you need that check.
Oh yeah, definitely. He was definitely a big guy, big part of that. So,
what is something you know now that you wish you knew sooner?
Something that I know now that I wish I knew sooner. Coaching for myself. One, I don't think it is for everybody, but I think it is, for people who want to give back. I was very naive when I first came out of, hey, I'm just coaching and we're here playing football and stuff like that. And, over the years, you kind of learned. I mean, I think I had with one of our buddies, Robbins. We came out of college and it was kind of like, hey, who's going to be the first with a head coaching job? And we were talking 28 years old. And, come to find out, it's a little bit tougher than that, trying to get some of these head jobs and these big gigs and stuff like that. And, I think we were very naive back then that it's just a process of, getting out there, some things that we had mentioned earlier, getting to know people, understanding, what it is that you're really here for. Is it yourself? Is it for the kids? Is it who are you here for, at the end of the day. And over time, it transitioned from I'm here because of me and for me to I'm here to service, to help everybody else out, and yeah, you're going to try to get what you can when you can, every now and then, but you're just here for people in general. The people next to you, share a lot of laughs, a lot of good things, with all the people I've met along the way, and just learning from them has always been a good thing. And just obviously the kids, if you're not here for kids, then I guess what are you here for? So that's been a transition from me being younger to now, seeing all of that back then and what it is now. It's a totally different feeling, that you get from coaching. And it's kind of cool to go back and to say, man, I used to be that guy, and coaching and kids and everything involved has changed me, over my course of time. So it's kind of cool to see.
One of the things that's interesting about that point, as a competitor, as somebody that was an athlete, let's say you're running a race, you're lifting, you're doing mat drills, you're doing competitive things, you control your own destiny, right? Like, you might get beat, but you see that this person excels more in this particular skill than you. And you give it your all, right? And you play them and you compete and you get roughed up. When it comes to being a head coach, you have no idea. You're isolated. You give your best opinions, you give your best answers, you lay out your program, and then somebody else does it, and then somebody else does it, and then somebody in another room makes the decision. Then you don't get feedback on why, that is extremely tough, extremely tough. And I think the sooner you realize that that's out of your control, the better. All I can control is what I'm doing right now and having influence over what I'm doing today.
Sure, for sure.
How do you balance coaching, family time, and personal time?
It's busy, but I think one, you have to have a good partner with you. I've been with my wife basically since I started coaching. So one, there's a kind of, we only know one way, but over the years, obviously it's changed. We went from it's just us two to now we have two boys with another boy on the way. So, things change as you go throughout the years, but I think balancing that time is, knowing when you have to go home. You have things to do at home. You have a whole nother life. I would tell that to earlier me. I would tell that to younger people, whoever it may be. You don't get that time back that you get to spend with your family, that you get to spend with your kids. There's a lot of coaches out there who, manage those things in different ways, and it's totally fine, and I definitely know I used to be one of those guys. I'm Sunday through Sunday, my head is down. I'm working, and I'm not really paying attention to anything else, especially during season. And over the time, you have to take a step back and realize, like, hey, I don't want to miss these things. I want to be here. I want to be here, and just get an understanding of, who are you here for, really? Yeah, you want to be there for all the kids at school and stuff like that you're with. But at the end of the day, the people that are going to be there for you is, the people right there in your household, so try to do my best to, manage that time. There are days where, stay late and have to do stuff. And then there's days where, hey, you know what, I can get here and make sure that I get to these things, and I'm not going to miss, certain games or whatever it may be at all, or there's no budge in me. So, I think I've learned to kind of manage that time, throughout the years. And like I said, it's a busy thing. I'm lucky. We're kind of on the same schedule with my wife. She's a teacher as well. So we kind of all get the breaks together. We get the spring breaks, the Christmas breaks and all that, which has been really good for our family. I don't know what I would do if we were on different schedules, honestly. And I know for some people out there, it's probably a tough thing. So kind of got blessed with that and lucky with that, and lucky that I have a partner who understands, kind of how we make time for our kids, how we make time for us, and how we make time for our own separate careers. So, managing it is tough. It's always a work in progress, and things change. Like I said, I'm going to have one on the way, so it's going to change again. So, looking forward to it. Wouldn't change it for the world.
You say you have another one on the way.
Another one on the way.
Congratulations,
Another one.
man. You
Appreciate
announced it to the world on my podcast.
it.
What has been the most difficult struggle for you in your coaching career?
In my coaching career, I think it's when you leave a school, and this happened to me last year. Leaving a school that you've been at for some time, and I was at Holmes High School for 5 years. We weren't very successful as far as the win and loss column. Like I said, a lot of different variables that go into that, and you do all you can for everybody that's involved, the kids, the coaching staff, everybody surrounding it, and you put in, and finally, the last year we end up having a little bit of success. Get to the 500. Could have been a sixth one in there that would have basically been the first winning season since I was at the school. And then your head coach leaves. So now it's like, hey, when you're a coordinator, when you're a defensive coordinator, it's, hey, what's going on? New people are coming in. Am I going to be the man here? Am I not going to be the man type thing? And, it takes kind of a toll on you, that transition. And, when you have to go somewhere else, and when you have to leave those kids, and they got to do it all over again, they got to relearn a whole nother process. It's a tough thing for me to deal with, and, just in general, moving on to somewhere else. It's a tough thing, and it happens year in and year out. And you never think you're going to kind of be one of those guys until it happens. And it's just a part of coaching. Things happen every day. We're not in the NFL or anything like that, but you see it every day on TV. Coordinators, head coaches, they're leaving, they're going. And for a high school guy, it's a little bit different because you're maybe a little bit more bought into the kids and where you're at, and how much you did for them, to not be able to see that kind of plan through, kind of eats at you a little bit. But you learn, you grow, you get somewhere else, and you try to make the same impact at the next place that you're at. So that's kind of been the biggest struggle for me as far as my coaching career. Just a specific situation. It's not easy to leave any place. When I left United, I think 4 years ago, or not 4 years ago, after the 4 years I was down there, you're talking about I had 2 QBs from the same family, from 8th grade all the way up until one was about to be a senior, and then I had to leave that family. And the way it is down there, you're with those guys every day. You're in the gym with them, you're working out with them, all that stuff. And to have to leave family, kids, people, it's not a good feeling all the time, but you make do. You get to the next spot, and then you do the same. So it's a process, but it's always tough.
What has been
Yeah.
we talked about your family situation earlier. You got a bun in the oven. What is marital advice you have for coaches? And I'm kind of hesitant to ask this. I don't even know why we're doing this, but go ahead.
Oh man, if Felicia is out
That's
here
what I'm
listening to
saying.
this, or
Like Philly should come.
you know,
Like I
it's
don't
going to
know
be
why
like a
you're answering this.
what I say. Be like, no, you don't do all that, or yeah, maybe you do some of this or something like that. But the thought process and the try to of it is communication over time. I mean, uh, like I said, we came from just us two to now we're about to be a family of five, and you have to talk every day. You know, if you're young, if you're old, if you're going through something for whatever it may be, uh, you just have to talk. You have to communicate. You have to be able to understand. There's give and take, you know, to everything that you do. You know, I would want to sit here and say that, you know, and tell everybody like, yeah, I run it and I do
No.
this and I do that, and
Known this situation for 20
it is
years. Billy's the head coach.
it's quite the opposite. It's quite the opposite, you know. So we have our laughs with it, you know. We're with friends or we're hanging out, and I'm like, no, I'm the man. I'm in charge, you know, this and that. And, you know, she's just sitting over there looking at me like, yeah, sure you are. You know, so it's always a fun deal to laugh and mess around with that stuff. But at the end of the day, having a good partner that you're able to communicate with, and you know, who's there to support you, and you try to do the same. And I try to, you know, get better at that every year. You know, I would tell her, you know, from year one to now, you know, when things get, you know, a little tough, I'm like, hey man, I change like every year, you know, hey, what's going on? Like I change every year and I try to do this and try to do these things, and it doesn't work. Don't do that. Like uh, just go with the process, you know, communicate, be understanding, do what you can for you and your family, and you know, give it your best go. You know, that's all anybody can do at the end of the day uh, is just that. You know, just be there for your family, be there for your wife. You know, they're there for us. You know, 24/7 whenever we need. They're taking care of the kids. You know, when we're gone coaching and stuff, and we got to return that favor in some way, shape, or form. So, you know, you're just hoping and praying that uh, you did enough in your time or throughout the days, throughout the weeks that, you know, hopefully you can get by. So communicate.
We talked about Coach Sanchez earlier. We talked about Coach Good. Who else helped mentor you early in your career, and how did you benefit from that relationship?
You know, besides coaching, and those were two of the most influential, is just my dad in general. My dad he is not an athlete by any means or anything that I've ever known or been accustomed to, but growing up, you know, he was the one telling me what to do, where to go, how to do it, the thought process behind all these different things. And he kind of, you know, stamped some of those, you know, good qualities and character in me at an early age when, you know, I know it's something that maybe he didn't do for himself, you know, growing up. Uh, you know, so just being in school, having good grades, you know, all those things, all those little things that add up to so much, you never realize at the beginning. Uh, but now when you're your own man, you got your own family, you got your own career, you can kind of look back and say like, yeah, I got it from him for sure, you know. So having him, you know, as one of my big supporters, I mean, he's still at the games, you know. I'm in the booth or down on the sideline, and we'll get done after a game, and he's the one, you know, pointing at me saying, "Hey, what happened with this? Hey, what about this? Hey, what was up with this call?" And I'm sitting here thinking like, hey man, we put all this work this week. We've been doing it year in, year out. You know, I think your time's done, but you always gotta listen, you know, to see if you can get a little nugget from him, you know, here and there. You know, because it's still a process. You're still learning every day. So he was one of those guys that, you know, was just straight had my back from an early age, and have all the respect for him. And you know, it's kind of the things that I want to do for my son. You know, eventually they gotta grow up. You got to be hands off, and they got to go and do what they do, you know. And so for what he did for me, for what I'm able to provide and do for my family, like uh, I'm hoping he can see that as his success, and being a dad. So
Here we go. 2 minutes left. You have no timeouts. Down 5 on the 50. It's 4th and 4. Describe to the listeners thought process, personnel, formation, play. What are we trying to accomplish? How are we getting the win, Coach?
oh man, if I need a down and distance right now, obviously you got to get the first one to get the rest of them. Clock's against you. Um, Hopefully you've been able to do something, throughout the course of the game. There's obviously a lot of variables that come into play through the course of the game. But, different players, and my thought process through that is I'm going to get my players the ball. Like the big time guys on fourth down plays, they need the ball, and what have I done to get them open? I'm likely going to be in some sort of 10 personnel or 11, depending if we had a tight end who, can do some of those things. It's always a great option. But I'm probably putting them in an empty set right away, emptying out the back to basically a single side. So we would be trips with an open, empty out the back. And then I kind of like to put a little bit of motion in there to kind of switch it on people, because everybody usually plays base type of defense when you're, kind of working down the field. So, hey, we kind of changed that leverage on them. They probably got it out to trips. We're looking at the 2 receiver side, throw a little motion back, and probably run some sort of stick concept to the trip side where number 3 is either basically working into the flat, trying to get basically that 4. You can have a little basically pivot or dig search route by the number 2 to that right side, and then the number 1, we're going to send them to chop off the top with either like an inside 9 or 8. And then on the backside, I'd probably work some sort of quick game, depending on what the flow of basically the game was. I'm likely running something out and something back in, whether it be a slant bubble, a little arrow route or shoot route to the flat by the number 2, and then bringing the slant back in to give the QB options. So not a full field read. It's kind of once that motion goes, where do we have numbers? Where do we have space? Space is working back to that 2 receiver side where we're sending the motion. I want them to work there. And if something looks great on the backside, because they're moving over, hey, you can work quick game to the backside. That would be my 4th and 4 play, 4th and 5 play, working in. I know Trahan is running all verticals, and it's a great thing, but it's
Touchdown!
It's not a right. That would be my next play.
Trahan's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but he had to have somebody throw it to him, remember. Not every kid is what you want it to be back there. You have to remember that. But if you got the guy and you trust him, hey, for sure. There's no doubt that verticals or some sort of verticals is coming up, as we move the ball down the field. That's for sure. You have no time left. You got to take some chances. You got to take some risks. What better route than a 9 at the end of the game? Everybody does it. Everybody does it. It's a game winner.
It's true.